Welcome to Uranium Mining and Milling in Virginia, an educational presentation brought to you by Southside Concerned Citizens. That's right, folks. VUI is a Canadian corporation, a limited liability company as outlined in their prospectus dated November 8, 2007. Their prospectus can be found at www.sedar, that's SEDAR.com. A careful reading of VUI's Canadian prospectus sheds much light on what VUI presents in its public and private meetings and prints in the newspapers, not the least of which is the fact that Virginia Uranium Inc. of Virginia is a wholly owned subsidiary of Virginia Uranium Inc., Yukon. And as you know, Yukon, folks, is in Canada. This is how the company is structured. VUI Limited Yukon owns VUI Inc. Yukon. VUI Inc. Yukon issues special warrants by private placement through its holding company, Holdco. That's right, VUI is still a private company. VUI has to offer you warrants for you to own any piece of it. These warrants will be converted to shares if and when the company goes public. Walter Coles is the primary shareholder of these Canadian corporations. These Canadian corporations wholly own VUI Virginia, also known as Virginia Co., and Southside Cattle Company, LLC, another limited liability company, which is also a Virginia company. These two companies together are known as Holdco subsidiaries. The Holdco subsidiaries has acquired various property interests in a land package comprised of 2,940 acres of mineral rights and 2,296 acres of surface rights, together known as Coles Hill. This information is found on page 9 of VUI's Canadian prospectus. As part of a $19 million private placement, here is who owns VUI. Aberdeen International, a Canadian corporation, announced its purchase of $1 million Canadian of VUI warrants October 15, 2007. This transaction, as you can see, was facilitated by several Canadian companies. Laramide Resources Limited, another Canadian company, reports in their 3 and 9 months interim financial statement ended September 13, 2007, that they own $1.8 million Canadian of VUI warrants. Company management, VUI's Canadian underwriters, Cormac, CompuShare of Canada, and, according to Walter Coles, 31 private investors, one being Henry Hurt, Virginia Senator Robert Hurt's father, and, according to a source at the Pennsylvania County Farm Bureau that prefers to remain anonymous, several Farm Bureau members were offered VUI stock at the grossly undervalued price of $5 per share. Perhaps some of these are part of Mr. Coles' 31 private investors. It does appear that a great share of the ownership of VUI is Canadian. Mr. Coles claims that VUI is Virginia owned and Virginia managed. As you can see, this is questionable. The fact is, American banks do not want to finance uranium mining and milling. They absolutely do not want to finance new nuclear power plants unless our government is willing to guarantee these loans at 100%. If our government did this, it would be committing billions of ours, the taxpayers' money, into an industry that cannot survive financially on its own. Our government is currently spending billions of dollars at Superfund sites trying to clean up the radioactive contamination caused by uranium mining and milling companies. Companies that ran out of money after violating the rules and regulations in the states where they operated. They took their profits and ceded the property back to the jurisdiction where they operated. In this case, the property would be ceded back to Pennsylvania County. Remember the company flowchart? VUI Virginia and Southside Cattle Company LLC are wholly owned by Mr. Cole's Canadian company, VUI Inc. Yukon. Currently, Mr. Coles is the primary stockholder. That's not to say that he always will be. Aberdeen International is interesting in that their website informs that they seek to buy stock in companies that meet the following criteria. Their website says, Aberdeen International will seek to acquire significant equity participation and will focus on corporations that are in need of managerial, technical, and financial resources to realize their full potential. Further, that they are undervalued in foreign capital markets, and companies that operate in jurisdictions with moderate local political risks. In other words, they want to operate in what's known as sacrifice zones. These are areas that are sparsely populated, with a great number of those living in the area being undereducated, underemployed, and economically disadvantaged. They offer the politicians an opportunity to say, look, we brought in jobs and money to the area, thus keeping them in office. These companies count on our short-sightedness and ignorance of the long-term environmental and health dangers represented by uranium mining and milling. The facts are that according to the Energy Information Administration, the official energy statistics from the United States government report as of May 13, 2008, and at the end of 2007, there were 6 underground uranium mines and 5 in situ leaching mines operating in the U.S. No open-pit uranium mines were operating at the end of 2007 in the United States. The same source reveals that there were only 378 individuals working in uranium mines, 107 people working in uranium mills at the end of 2007. This means that the average number of employees in an uranium mine and milling operation in the U.S. at the end of 2000 was 44 individuals. The VUI private meeting slideshow states that they will directly employ 300 to 500 individuals. VUI claims that it will pay a voluntary 4% tax. They tell you in their private meeting slide show that this will be controlled by a self-governing body. In other words, VUI would form a foundation for this money controlled by VUI. Thank you for your time and attention. For further information, please go to scc.blogspot.com. VUI.com.